The room's gone very silent now, all of a sudden. So listen, good morning everybody. We're absolutely delighted to welcome you here this morning. We'd particularly like to welcome Minister Harris and Minister Collins to the launch of the Further Education and Training Strategy. Just to give you a little sense of the format for the event, you'll shortly be hearing from Andrew Brownlee. He's going to give us a bit of an overview of the strategy itself. We'll then be followed by Ministers Harris and Ministers Collins. We'll then hear from Carol Hanney, and also we have a FET learner here today who's going to speak to us. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Unfortunately, the masks have to stay on. If you could put your phones on silent, and just note the emergency exits behind you and to the left here. And without further ado, thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Ministers, Chair, Chief Executives, Department officials, and colleagues from across the FET sector. It gives me great pleasure to be with you here today to launch the new National Further Education and Training Strategy. Thank you all so much for coming. I know we're living in strange and challenging times where obviously we have to be extremely careful around any sort of group gathering. But we did think it important to mark this key milestone with a formal launch for a small number of people. In keeping with the times, we'll be joined virtually by many more stakeholders who will also play a crucial role in bringing this strategy to life, and I'd like to thank them for tuning in as well. So why is FET so important to our future? Well, I believe that what makes FET truly unique is that it's for everyone and it's everywhere. It's available in every community in Ireland and offers every individual, regardless of any previous level of formal education, a pathway to take them as far as they want to go. It offers personal development and fulfilment, a link to community and social networks, and a range of supports that reflect the diverse base of its learners. It also offers great opportunities to move into exciting careers or a platform to develop the skills that will allow someone to flourish if they go on to higher education. FET really is the key to unlocking Ireland's full future potential. But we also know that FET has to change, and that's why we've called this new strategy Transforming Learning. FET can offer opportunities to so many people with so many different needs, but it's currently too complex with too many programs, and we need to simplify the pathways to ensure that all learners understand how they can progress within FET and into exciting jobs or into higher education. We need to make FET easier to access with clear and multiple entry points for all types of learners and learning delivered in more flexible ways, making full use of technology. There has to be a more consistent learner experience with the same levels of support and guidance on offer, regardless of course and location. And most important of all, we need to build a more powerful identity, developing consolidated, larger-scale FET colleges of the future, which can help to change the hearts and minds of the communities that they serve. So this strategy is built across 3 pillars: building skills, fostering inclusion, and facilitating pathways. Under the skills pillar, we're committed to a new Level 5 and Level 6 proposition, breaking down those old barriers between further education and training provision, with at least 30% of every course either work-based or practice-based, and clearly identified pathways and outcomes. We need to position FET as a resource for enterprise, supporting the upskilling and reskilling of employees, building on the success of Skills to Advance initiative launched last year. We need to deliver on apprenticeship with a more cohesive approach across pre-2016 and 2016 plus apprenticeships. We need to support greater employer buy-in and support a more innovative and flexible model of apprenticeship moving forward. And we need to meet critical skills needs that align with the future world of work and the evolving economic, societal, and environmental challenges. Of course, there is a short-term imperative to address the upskilling and the reskilling needs of those who have lost their jobs as a result of COVID-19 and to support their journey back into work. And that will be a short-term priority. It's also been really encouraging to hear Minister Harris in his first public statements talk about the importance of FET and HE as a driver of both the economy and of social cohesion. Further education and training has always had this strong dual focus, and we'll continue to embed an ethos of inclusion by ensuring more consistency in the way that learners are supported across FET and that unique learner needs are accommodated. By rooting FET in the community with a new community education framework supporting ETBs to work in partnership with other providers to develop and roll out innovative approaches that engage the hardest to reach groups. By targeting priority cohorts and ensuring increased participation via both dedicated and mainstream FET initiatives. And by supporting the literacy, numeracy and basic digital capability needs of learners across FET with a real strong focus on addressing the digital divide. I think to ensure that our skills priorities and our inclusion priorities don't stand as kind of almost mutually exclusive, dealing with different cohorts of learners in different settings. The new strategy is placing a strong and central focus on pathways that allow people to progress into, within, and from FET. This includes pathways from school to FET, including more exposure to vocational options and pathways within the school system, a potential role for FET in offering taster and Level 5 and Level 6 modules as an integrated part of transition year or senior cycle. It's about pathways within FET, significantly reducing the number of FET programs in operation and focusing on pathways that link the foundation skills to the bridging skills and then to courses that lead directly to either employment or higher education. And on that theme, we need to look at our pathways between FET and HE, with a more consistent approach to transitions between the two sectors and further development of 1+2 and 2+2 models of co-provision. And finally, we need to think about how we facilitate those lifelong learning pathways, allowing people to kind of dip in and dip out of further education and training throughout lifetimes and careers by adopting more flexible and modular methods of learning delivery. Now, we know that delivering on all of that won't be easy, and there are key enablers that we have to focus on in order to achieve success. That includes addressing staffing capabilities and structures, ensuring that FET is learner and performance-centred, facilitating digital transformation, and focusing on capital development to ensure cutting-edge, quality, and accessible education and training for all. So at the end of the lifetime of this strategy, what will success look like for FET? I think FET will have to be bigger. It will have to impact on more people across Ireland, building on our current base of 200,000 unique learners. It will mean a greater share of school leavers will be choosing FET or apprenticeship as their first destination, with learners moving seamlessly between FET and higher education based on clear transition criteria. It will mean many more people in employment using FET to upskill, and it will mean progression levels through FET will increase strongly. There will be a digitally transformed FET system offering a large portfolio of flexible, online and blended opportunities. So that's an overview of what I believe is an exciting and ambitious strategy. And I think it's important to recognise the many people and the stakeholders that have played an important role in its development. We spent almost 9 months engaging with representatives across government, industry, FET staff and practitioners, NGOs, and most importantly of all, our learners. I'd like to particularly acknowledge our 16 education and training boards. They are the primary means of delivering further education and training across Ireland, and we very much worked in partnership with them and their representative body, ETBI, in developing the strategy. I also want to recognise the support and work of my colleagues across Solace. The chair and our board played a strong role in helping to shape the strategy, and all of our staff were engaged in helping to identify issues, ideas and priorities. I'd like to thank Alan and Shauna and the strategy research and evaluation team which managed the project on a day-to-day basis, and Kieran who oversaw the work. And finally, I just want to acknowledge the support of those at the Department of Education and Skills who worked closely with us on the development of the strategy. And it's great to see so many of those colleagues move across to the new Department of Further and Higher Education, allowing us to continue the good work together. We were delighted with the establishment of this new department and the focus it will provide on building on the work which has already been undertaken to build a more cohesive tertiary system across FET and HE. I think as a colleague in higher education noted yesterday, let's transform together for the good of all. And I think if we do that, then everyone wins. From initial conversations with Minister Harris and Minister Collins, it's certainly clear that they share that vision and that they have a real commitment to growing the role and contribution of FET in this next critical phase of Irish social and economic development. And on that note, I would like to hand over to Minister Harris, who will give you his thoughts on the launch of this new strategy. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Andrew, and good morning, everyone. And I'm really delighted to be here with you this morning with my colleague, Minister Collins, for what is our first official function and event in our new capacities as ministers in the Department of Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science. And I want to say, just about nearly 3 weeks, I think, into this new role, I'm just so enthused and energised by the can-do attitude of all of those I'm meeting. Department officials who have been working in this area for so long and are so passionate about the impact of further and higher education on lives. Those of you in Solace and in the ETBs, it certainly makes my job an awful lot easier when I meet so many enthusiastic and energetic people. And I want to help you, along with Minister Collins, champion this sector, give it the voice, the recognition, the profile and the seat at the table that, quite frankly, it deserves. I've often thought that whilst these issues are part of the Department of Education, a brilliant department, it's often hard, though, to ensure that the key issues in the sector can be brought to the surface. There's just so many other competing issues that a Department of Education needs to address day in, day out, week in, week out. To have a dedicated Department of Further and Higher Education, which can also harness the research, innovation and science functions that are coming, I think gives us a real engine for change and an engine for delivery, and I'm so excited about that prospect. And I do want to say at the outset that the name of the department is very, very important to me, because this department was originally very temporarily, called the Department of Higher Education. This is not the universities department. It is a department for universities. It is a department for learners. It is a department for people right across the spectrum of learning and all of the possibilities. And it is a department to bring together further and higher education, to enable seamless pathways on the learning journey. So it is really important to me. It's not just a word. It is a statement of intent that further is in my title as Minister and the title of the new department as well. I'm really conscious that the last few number of weeks and months have been extraordinarily difficult for our country, extraordinarily difficult for our world. And COVID-19 has, I suppose, taken so many things that we thought were certain in life and made them all of a sudden very uncertain. And we're seeing that even in kind of newspaper discussions today. You plan to do something on such and such a date, and then the virus has something to say about that. So I know there's a lot of nervousness, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of worry and anxiety in our country at the moment. And I really think this is an opportunity for FET to come into its own, because you can provide people with an opportunity in a flexible, agile way to respond to some of the new challenges they're facing in their own life, in their own community. The challenges we're facing as individual people, but the challenges we're also facing as a country. And I hear an awful lot of talk about restarting our country. Let's restart our economy. Let's restart our society. Let's not do that. Let's rebuild our country. Let's rebuild our society. Let's rebuild our economy. And that's really where further education and training has a major, major role to play. I passionately believe that further education has an incredible story to tell, that it doesn't get nearly enough attention or recognition for the transformational nature of what it does. It has been the Cinderella of the Irish education system, sometimes overlooked, often undervalued, not discussed enough. I think we narrow conversations in our country about third-level education much, much, much too early in life. I think when mums and dads sit around the dinner table with their sons or daughters in the CAO application, that all of a sudden narrows the conversation in a way that is not good and in a way that is not in line with best international practice and with the experience of many other European countries. So we need to broaden the conversation. We need to make sure that further education is not the uninvited guest to those family debates and discussions around dinner tables, and that further education isn't seen as something that somebody else or somebody else's child does. I did a radio interview this morning and I was asked a very good question, but it's, what is the target group for the new strategy? The target group is everybody. Further education has a role to play for everybody. It doesn't have a role to play for some sector of society over there. It has an impact on every single one of us. It can play a positive role in all our family lives, in all our community lives, and in every part of this country. So we need to change that discussion, and I'm absolutely determined that we will. It's my ambition as Minister to break down barriers, whether they're perceived barriers or actual barriers, between post-primary, further and higher education, and to ensure that the pathways to progress and to transition from one to the other are open. It may well suit somebody on their learning journey to start in a further education setting and end up in a university setting. There have to be those seamless pathways, and I really appreciate the emphasis in the strategy on simplifying the pathways. So it can be a bit of a maze at times, and I think that way of trying to simplify it is really, really welcome. So the strategy we're publishing today is ambitious. It is the vision of what we want to achieve together over the next 5 years. And I think the 6 key targets, the things that whichever ones of us are in this room in 5 years, we should measure ourselves against. Have we achieved these 6 key targets? 1, there needs to be a greater overall penetration of FET across the population of Ireland. 2, we need to see a greater share of school leavers choosing FET or apprenticeships as their first destination. 3, we need to see people moving seamlessly, even more so, between further education and training and higher education with clear transition criteria. 4, we need to see a significant and growing number of people in employment using FET to upskill. So again, it's not just something for the school leaver, that at different stages of our life we see the benefit of FET in terms of upskilling, and we see employers viewing FET as a critical enterprise resource, and I think that's more important than ever. 5, we need to see progression levels through FET increasing strongly with pathways from core skills and community education available to all. And 6, as Andrew spoke about, we need to see a digitally transformed FET system offering a large portfolio of flexible, online and blended opportunities. And I really think that's the space people are going to expect education to be in the next number of years, and we need to get ahead of that. We need to catch up in the first instance, and then we need to get ahead of it. So at a time of great economic and societal challenge, further education has often been used as the tool to respond. And I've no doubt that those 6 building blocks will help us do so again. I've already said this morning, and I do really believe that COVID-19 has had a profound impact on society. I think it's also, though, shone a light on inequalities existing in our society. They're not new inequalities. They were there before COVID, but it's shone a light on them. And I think that's given us an opportunity to really re-energise that discussion around FET. During the last recession, further education proved itself to be so flexible in adapting to the needs of people, firstly, and the economy as well. And as we respond to the COVID challenges, further education will be what repairs, repurposes, and revives both our economy and our society. And it'll do so because of its flexibility, because it can empower us to choose our own path at whatever point we're at in our life or in our education. As I get used to the many new acronyms, I used to think health was bad for this, but I think you guys might be worse. As I get used to the new acronyms of a new department, it does strike me that FE can stand for more than just further education. It must stand for everyone. And I do think that is a key message in the strategy that we're launching today. This is a strategy that proudly and ambitiously says we've made a lot of progress over the last 5 years. We have put huge effort, you have put huge effort into putting in place the infrastructure right across this country. There have been massive reforms. Now it's time to step out of the shadows and take the rightful place alongside higher education. And let's be clear, this is not a conversation about further education versus higher education. This is not a threat to higher education. This is not about doing something to the detriment of higher education. It's about working together. It's about realising that the reason all of us, whether we're in higher education or further education, get out of bed in the morning is to serve learners and to help our country through that. We have to work together to provide seamless paths and opportunities for people in education, whatever their age, whatever their stage. It has to be about equality of opportunity and equality of option as well. I think FET is central to delivering a number of key commitments in the programme for government, and I'm really excited about the role that it will play in that regard. Specifically, from an enterprise point of view, the Skills to Compete initiative will provide a strong education and training response to the labour market and economic situation that we're now faced with. I think it's encouraging that already you have an agency in Solace that is so interlinked already with the workings of the Department of Social Protection, the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment, and with enterprise stakeholders as well. And I think the Skills to Compete initiative is a really good one that we need to build on further as well. I do want to acknowledge the massive reform each and every one of you in this room has led, and those watching in as well. I want to congratulate you on that. It wasn't always guaranteed to be this way. You've worked through extremely disruptive and difficult times and shown incredible leadership. And this strategy today is as a result of that hard work, outlining very, very clearly the proud role that FET can now play as well. I think we also have to be honest, though. We do face a number of challenges. Education at all levels is not yet where it needs to be in terms of equality of opportunity. It's not yet as inclusive as it needs to be. And we need to ask ourselves the difficult questions, and we need to fix them. We need to ask ourselves why, when I met the travelling community, they were telling me this week that there were more travellers in prison than in university. We need to ask ourselves why female participation in apprenticeships is still not where it needs to be. And we need to face up to what I think is one of the biggest educational and societal challenges of our generation, and that is the digital divide. Andrew spoke so well about it. I think he's right to do that, and I think Solace has a major role to play in this regard, because digital literacy now must be on par with literacy and numeracy. It is an essential survival skill. It's been recognised by the European Commission to be a survival skill since 2004, and yet 48% of people living in Ireland only have basic digital literacy skills, able to use the mobile phone perhaps. That's not going to be enough to sustain us. And when you get to percentages as large as 48, I think we have a real challenge. So I'm really looking forward to working with you in terms of driving the implementation of this strategy to ensure that it is inclusive and that it serves the diverse needs of all people, including people with disabilities, new migrants, travellers, the long-term unemployed, and ex-offenders as well. Each individual requires focused types of supports to address their particular circumstances and needs. And again, I believe this sector is so well positioned to provide those flexible responses, to reach out, to re-engage, and to address the needs of a variety of people. I want to really extend my sincere thanks to Andrew Brownlee for the leadership you provide. Leadership sets the tone for an agency, and I'm really grateful for your leadership and looking forward to it continuing. I want to thank all your team in Solace. I want to thank Sean, the chair of the board, and all of the board for your leadership and oversight as well in our initial engagements, there's a lot of blue sky thinking going on. There's a huge amount of opportunities here, and I'm looking forward to working with you in that regard. I want to thank our education and training boards. I thank Carol and all her colleagues for their work and their leadership and their lifetime commitment to this area as well. Today represents the culmination of what has been a very intensive and inclusive development process. And I know so many of you have contributed to this process, and I want to sincerely thank you. I also want to thank Maria Walsh and her team for organising today's event. It's not that easy to organise events in a COVID context, and getting everyone wearing their face masks as well. So thank you so much for what you've done. There's no shortage of ambition in this country. This is an ambitious country. This is a country that is doing well, has proudly taken its place amongst the nations of the world. It is a country that is going to rebuild and recreate post-COVID. And there is no better example than ambition and drive than Stephanie, who's here today. And I had the opportunity, we only got to meet briefly outside, but I had the opportunity to read your story, and I look forward to you sharing it with us. But your story shows how FET can open doors, how FET can change lives, how FET can be transformational, and how FET can be well interlinked on that journey through our higher education system. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your stories. It makes the impact much more powerful when people can hear a human story as to how it's had an impact on life. I've no doubt this strategy will ensure there's many more Stephanies right across our country from a variety of backgrounds who have huge opportunities as well. So myself and Minister Collins now will be focusing on driving implementation, on leading the communication of FET and apprenticeship as first choice pathways to build sustainable careers and full lives. We have a lot to do. We're up for doing it. We're up for working with you in partnership, and it's my great honour and privilege to formally launch this new national strategy today, to look forward to working with all of you to ensure its successful implementation, to thank you for all that you've done, and now to invite my colleague and friend, Minister Niall Collins, to address you. Gur Magat.
Good morning. Thank you, Minister Harris, for your few words and inviting me to speak. Thanks to Andrew for the invitation to attend here this morning to address you, and welcome to all our guests here. Just to say at the outset, I want to acknowledge the absolutely outstanding work that all of you do in Solace, in the ETBs, and in all the various agencies and subgroups that feed into our wider FET family right across the country. I have a bit of experience of it, as Minister Harris does, in terms of being a constituency TD and a constituency rep. I think that the openness that the ETBs and Solace and the access that you give to people is really, really good. And when I interact with these agencies and with you on behalf of people who come to us for advice, there's always an open door policy, and I think that's really, really refreshing. I have attended many, over the years since I became a TD, many graduation ceremonies of people who have attended further education and training, and to see the happiness and the satisfaction and the hope that attaining a qualification of whatever level that they have achieved and attained in whatever discipline, be it social care or childcare or whatever they have gone into or have chosen to pursue as a career option, is immense. And I think it's a very, very proud day for them. And these graduations in further education and training in all parts of Ireland, not just in the big universities, as the Minister have said, are as big an event and as an important a day, and will be remembered as a big day by those people and by those participants, because, as we all know, education opens doors and creates pathways for people to have their careers and to earn a livelihood and to live their lives. Just to say a few words in relation to the new department also, I'm very excited and enthused by it. It was an idea of my party leader when we were in opposition, and it was openly embraced by Minister Harris's party as part of the negotiations. And I think the idea that there was such open agreement to creating such a new department, which will effectively bridge between primary, secondary education and into the workplace, is really immense, that we've made this decision to go ahead and do it. And we have a huge challenge, and there's legislation required, in fact, to enable the department, as we know. But I think we need to hit the ground running, and we're hitting the ground running today in terms of launching this strategy vision document. But I think we have to be realistic too, that we will be judged on how we deliver the targets which are set out in this document. And that's the key and the challenge for all of us, and I think everybody in the room here will be judged on the delivery of the targets over the years, because Programme for Government informs it, and the consultation process that Andrew and his team have put into this document informs all the targets that are in there. So setting up of the department was hugely important. Minister Harris and I were discussing earlier privately where we will see later in the year, when it comes to budget time, we will be going to speak to Minister for Public Expenditure, Michael McGrath, and for the first time ever, the issues around further education and training will be up there in terms of priority, because heretofore, when you were part, as the Minister has stated previously earlier, when you were part of a bigger department, there were so many other competing priorities also. So that's good to know. I'm also happy to join with Minister Harris in this department, but I want to see, and I know it's there already, a big community ethos, a community drive and initiative in terms of how we roll out this, particularly across our rural communities. It's something that we get as public representatives, that rural Ireland is neglected and forgotten, and that it's the Greater Dublin area and the East Coast. So we want this, through the vision which has been launched today, to reach into every community in Ireland. I think that's very, very important. Just to acknowledge also the challenges that COVID has brought upon us all. The world, as we know it, has changed so much in so many ways in terms of how we're going to have to adapt in living all of our lives, but of course the delivery of education will have to change also as part of that. So with just those few words, I'll pass over to, is it Carl who's next, and thank you all.
Dús bara gawan buíchas solas as octan cura a hurtam le bheith an seoineo an Loudlive. And I would like to congratulate Minister Simon Harris and Minister Niall Collins on their appointment to the new Department of Further and Higher Education, and to say how much we all appreciate your attendance here today to launch this new strategy. I would also like to commend the incoming government for the prominence it gave to further education in the programme for government, and to say also that the ETBs look forward to working with both ministers in the coming years. This is an exciting time for further education. The sector has a proud and long history. We've been growing and developing over many years, and I believe that the strategy which we are launching today is a far-reaching document which promises a strong future for further education in Ireland. This is a bold and ambitious strategy, not because it's changing everything, but because it's building on what is there already and moving towards a coherent and, might I say, simplified structure. In the ETBs, further education has grown by responding to specific needs, and therefore a huge number of different programmes and initiatives exist, which will now be streamlined into a more cohesive structure. The further education sector has both expanded and refined itself over the years, and the coming together of the education and training elements under the ETBs and under SOLAS has brought a much greater synergy. The evolution of thinking around FET has progressed enormously, and since 2008, strategic performance agreements are in place, which have led to innovative plans for developing and further enhancing the sector. This strategy is a holistic document which addresses all the main issues. The answer to the question of what is FET is here. The strategy accepts the wide spectrum of delivery which FET offers and recognises the many roles it plays. In the ETBs, we are there to prepare people for the world of work and to answer the needs of industry. But we're also there to ensure that individuals can learn throughout their lives so that their life stories can be enhanced and expanded. We're there to prepare people for work, and we're there to lead them towards more fulfilling lives. The plan sets a framework for development and change for serving the needs of our students, our society and our economy. The three priorities of the new strategy synopsise what FET is all about: building skills, creating pathways and fostering inclusion. And the four enabling themes are the parameters within which the ETBs operate. The ETB sector has a huge competence in education delivery. We run primary and second level schools, and we run most of the FET services, and in CDETB we also run SUSI. Therefore, we have a strong educational expertise, which we bring to our FET delivery. There is much to be done, and we will do it. In fact, we've already started on most of the plan. The seeds are already sown. FET has many facets, and it goes deep into our communities. Its tentacles are everywhere, from the small literacy group run in a community to the large FET college or training centre. One of the strongest aspects of how adaptable the FET sector is how adaptable the FET sector has proven to be. The ability of ETBs to diversify and change quickly over the years has been proven. Agile is a word which is used on several occasions in the document, and this is what FET is. We are flexible. A very welcome development in recent years has been the ongoing modernisation of our data collection. We now have solid evidence to prove the efficacy of our systems. This will be a very powerful tool in coming years, and the importance of the work of the SLMRU in forecasting and providing us with up-to-date pictures of local and national needs will help refine what courses we offer, particularly in relation to preparation for work. There is never certainty, but now in these unclear times we need to constantly analyse and adapt and reanalyse and readapt to changing needs. We need to constantly align ourselves with business so that the courses we offer are relevant and answer the needs of business and thereby prepare students for jobs that exist. The strategy addresses the need to keep teachers updated on industry, and this is something the ETBs have been exploring in terms of visits to industry and short placements in industry. But working with business is not just about preparing people for work, it's also about being a resource for business, aiding businesses and upskilling people who are already in work. We are doing this through programmes such as Return to Learning and Skills to Advance, and we will build and develop this relationship with industry. A major part of our interaction with industry is, of course, through the old and the new apprenticeship programmes, all of which are expanding and growing. We very much welcome the section dealing with the FET College of the Future, which envisions a large FET college offering a wide range of courses. Many of our FET colleges are already offering PLC courses, apprenticeships, BTI courses, skills to advance courses, etc. And we will build on that so that the FET College of the Future will offer the learner a range of easy-to-navigate options within a single integrated college structure. This will offer immediate access to a career and to employment, and also access to higher education. Student financial support is also important. In CDTB, we already operate SUSI, and PLC students receive a grant. But there are many different types of student support in FET, and the strategy recognises the need to once again move to a more simplified system. The FET sector, and particularly the PLC sector, has established progression links to higher education. But the establishment of a tertiary sector with clearly defined pathways of progression will be very welcome. We are also anxious to explore opportunities of co-delivery with higher education institutes, for example, the 2+2 model, which exists in some other countries. The FET College of the Future will have flexible learning delivery and will be an important resource in the community. The ETBs welcome the decision to look at staffing and management structures, particularly how students are recognised for purposes of staffing allocations. We welcome the idea of a capital budget and the ability to forward plan for all our premises. We would love to be able to generate revenue and to plan strategically how we spend as we grow and develop. A holistic FET provision and a true FET college will have a range of learning supports and guidance inbuilt. Once again, this already exists, but the streamlining of what is there will provide a stronger and more integrated service and a more consolidated student support. We provide literacy and numeracy programmes across the community, but this is also necessary on our full-time and more advanced courses. It's important that we integrate literacy, numeracy and digital support across all our courses, and this is from basic literacy to advanced language skills. This support needs to be available at every level. Another welcome area in the report is the intention to increase accommodation for people with disabilities in mainstream education rather than separated, dedicated provision. There are now huge possibilities emerging where we can also tailor student support through technology. Technology has revolutionised the lives of many people living with disabilities, and this is an area where FET can play its part. With universal design for learning, everybody will benefit. Quality assurance strongly underpins the work we do, and another very important aspect of our work involves QQI. We offer nationally recognised qualifications, and furthermore, we have developed expertise in programme development, which is allowing us to create and adapt courses to meet the more recent needs of students, society and the economy. I'm very happy to see climate change included in this strategy. FET can play a huge part here, from educating people on how to live in an environmentally friendly life in the community to providing a wide range of courses addressing the building industry. Our apprenticeship training already includes the most advanced methods of energy conservation, and we run courses on such as retrofitting of buildings. This is an area where we will be very happy to play a large part. One of the most disturbing realisations over the past 4 months, which has already, I think, been mentioned by Andrew and Simon, is the sharp division and disadvantage that has presented due to lack of access to information technology. This is felt most severely by the less well-off and by older people in our community. It's an area where the ETBs have worked very hard in trying to provide access to devices for learners and also in upskilling. The need to address the digital divide is very real. ETBs have been involved through work-based learning projects in upskilling people at work who have low IT skills, and a huge effort has been played in community education to provide people, especially those outside the paid workforce, with basic IT skills. Our community and adult education services will help prevent the marginalised becoming even more marginalised and the reclusive becoming even more reclusive. The past 4 months have been transformative in our society, and particularly in the area of online delivery of education. We don't want to lose the strong and powerful effects of social interaction in learning and the huge peer learning that exists in FE. But a system that also gives people the opportunity to learn in their own homes is very powerful. We all know the benefits of learning in a group, face-to-face. But when somebody lives in a remote part of rural Ireland and is unable to travel, the option to progress their education online is very attractive. We are living in very uncertain and unprecedented times. We do not yet know the effects all of this will have on our society, on our economy, and on individuals. The FET sector has always been highly adaptable and will continue to be so. Last March, we moved quickly to online delivery. We moved examinations to assessments, and almost all of our students received their awards. We quickly introduced new courses such as infection prevention and control, and have been running courses to upskill our teaching staff. We cannot foresee every educational demand that will arise in the coming years, but having a strong and cohesive strategy will allow us to diversify and address the needs as they emerge. The ETBs welcome this strategy and look forward enthusiastically to working towards its implementation and the building of a strong and cohesive tertiary sector in Irish education. Thank you. Gurmila Maghrith.
Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank you for having me here today, not only to tell my story and my educational journey, but also to give credit to the amazing organisations that have helped me along the way. I was an early school leaver. I left school at the age of 14 with no junior cert or leaving cert. I left school for various reasons. I found it difficult to settle, and I was dealing with personal struggles in my teens. At that time, education was just not a priority in my life. But because I was so young, I was required to be involved in some form of education. So I enrolled in my local Youthridge in Athy, County Kildare. Youthridge was very different to school. It was less formal, and although it was structured, it did not feel pressurised. The staff in Youthridge were amazing. They were there for one-to-one academic support, but they were also there for everything else. No matter what was going on for you, they tried their best to be there for you and to guide you. A lot of the other young people there were experiencing similar issues to me, so I felt that I could really be myself. I completed Youthridge and I entered into the workforce when I was quite young. I did various jobs, but they were a means to an end. There was nothing that I felt I wanted to do long term. When I was 18, I became pregnant with my son. My son was quite unwell when he was born and spent a large portion of the first year of his life in Crumlin Children's Hospital. As he started to get older, I noticed that he wasn't meeting all of his milestones. and when he was 2.5, he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. This was like a really huge turning point for me. I was a single parent, and I knew that I wanted to give my son a good life. I also knew that he was likely to face adversity in his future, and I wanted to be an example for him, to teach him resilience and to pursue his goals, whatever they might be. In 2013, I took part in the Moving On programme in St. Catherine's Community Service Centre in Carlow. The Moving On is a back-to-education programme for young mothers who are at risk of experiencing isolation, early school leaving, and difficulties in accessing mainstream education and employment opportunities. The year that I spent participating in the programme helped to grow my confidence. I started to become interested in learning again. I was encouraged to learn, and I was shown options that I didn't know I had. I genuinely felt that because I had left school with no qualifications, my options were very limited, and I had lost my chance for success. The coordinators on the programme helped me to choose a PLC course that I was interested in and supported me with making that application. I was accepted on a business administration course with legal studies at Carlow Institute of Further Education, and it was during that PLC course that I discovered my love for the law. My tutors on the course gave me excellent feedback on all of my work and regularly expressed to me that I would be capable of doing a degree. The PLC course provided me with an insight into college life, and they helped me prepare for my future studies. I finished the course with full distinctions, and I was accepted to my first CAO choice, an honours degree in law at Carlow Institute of Technology. I enjoyed every minute of my degree. It was challenging, and at times it did not always come easy, but I was really interested in what I was doing, and I was determined to reach my goals. Towards the end of my degree, I felt that I had more to give. I had my confidence back, and I made the decision to apply for a master's degree. I was accepted onto the MA in Comparative Criminology and Criminal Justice at Maynooth University. Like the degree, the master's was challenging, but it was where I discovered a new love for academics. For my master's thesis, I did a case study on my hometown of Athy, which highlighted a lot of the social issues that were facing the community and how those linked in with the high levels of crime that it had been experiencing. I achieved a 1-1 grade in my master's degree, and my supervising professor, Dr. David Doyle, enjoyed my work so much that he offered me a position as a research assistant in the Department of Law at Maynooth. I have been working in the Department of Law for the last 10 months, and I have been extremely lucky to have been given the opportunity to work on some amazing projects funded by the International Human Rights and Equality Commission and the Department of Justice. I have also co-authored 2 articles. One is currently under review, and the other, entitled Economic Accessibility to Education in Ireland, has recently been accepted for publication by the Journal of Human Rights Practice. I have also had the pleasure of tutoring in criminal law to undergrad law students in Maynooth and have provided one-to-one teaching supports during the COVID-19 pandemic. I am also extremely privileged to say that last week I became the recipient of the John and Pat Hume Doctoral Award from Maynooth University and will receive a fully funded scholarship to undertake my PhD this October. I am extremely grateful to the university, and I am looking forward to commencing my PhD, which will focus on domestic violence in Ireland and the role of the justice system from a victim's perspective. So I would just like to finish up again by thanking you for the opportunity to be here today to provide a learner's perspective and to acknowledge all the incredible work that has been done by the further education and training sector, and to wish all those involved every success in the launch of the new strategy. Thank you.
Wow, Stephanie, thanks so much for doing that for us. I mean, I think it just reflects something that we hear all the time. I certainly hear from all the staff across Solace, everyone we meet in the education and training boards, the people we meet in support organisations like AINTIS and NALA and AHEAD and ONCASON. like the learner is at the heart of absolutely everything we do, and that's what motivates us and that's what inspires us. And it's so great to hear from someone who's experienced so many different aspects of further education and training and is able to really demonstrate the value and now using that knowledge to go into such great things. So thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. That's it, folks, more or less. I just wanted to do one final set of thanks. Thanks to Maria and Emer and Aoife and Emma back at base on the Twitter machine for turning this around. Also Sarah in the department. We agreed to do this last Friday, and it was no mean feat, and just looking around at what they've managed to kind of turn around in those few days and the way the event's gone and the traction it's got, it's absolutely fantastic. Probably just about the first event that we've tried on this scale post-COVID or anyone has tried, so it's to your credit that you've been able to turn it around. So I do just want to say thanks to you, and thanks to Mark, thanks to Alice PR for helping us along the way, and thanks to this brilliant venue as well. I think is it Dublin City Council that own it, so thanks to Dublin City Council for allowing us to use this at such short notice. It's the perfect blend of old and new, you know, that history, that legacy of the fantastic kind of work and of the past with the real modern feel of what we're going to do in the future. So look, thanks to you all for coming. We're going to need your help now. We're going to need the help of everyone who's kind of tuning in online as well if we're going to deliver on this strategy. But we're really looking forward to that exciting journey with all of you. So thanks very much, and we'll see you all again soon. Cheers.